the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Elkent Movie Club. It's Elkent Movie Club. Elkent Movie Club. It's Elkent Movie Club.
Oh no, we can't hear him. John, we can't hear you.
Hello.
Hi, Kent. How are you?
He's not.
I'm good. How are you guys?
Well, I'm doing great. This is awkward because I didn't watch the movie and John's microphone's not working right now.
The one guy we need to talk. I watched it, so we're good.
Yeah. He's trying to talk and it's not working.
That's all right. Jump back on your tie line. We don't need to see your face.
All right, so John will be here in just a moment. All you listeners out there, because I imagine is he just going to hop on tie line and talk in there?
Do that. We don't need to see him.
But how are you, Ken? How's your week been?
Weird.
Yeah.
I got to be a police reporter this morning. That was a joyous event. I got to write about stolen check fraud. They steal the checks, take them to the bank, and deposit them, and then take the money out of the bank account scheme that they got caught at. So that was a thrill a second this morning. But you did not watch the movie?
No. So here, and my excuse isn't that great, but last night, I was planning on watching it really early this morning. I had my alarm set for early. I was going to wake up first thing and just watch the movie. Well, literally as I am brushing my teeth, I find out the news that is certainly shaking the country. And so I was just on Twitter for like an hour, 90 minutes, and I was up way too late to end up getting up early. And so I was just like, I guess I won't be watching it.
And you couldn't tear your eyes away from that dumpster fire in the Meadowlands?
No, dude, I watched the whole game, Kent. I couldn't believe it. It was a horrible football game, and I couldn't turn away.
Oh, I see that. It was a dumpster fire.
It was so bad.
He threw into triple coverage.
I can't believe the Broncos won. John, are you there?
Does the mic work now?
Hey, John!
I literally made sure this was working well before the show started, and then it decided not to. So
you just got out and got back in, and it worked. Just a little glitch.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to close everything down and then reopen everything.
Reset.
Crazy stuff. Well, let's get to the movie this week. Hello, Kent.
Hello.
All right, let's get to the movie this week. Defiance, which is based on a true story. It's a story I was not familiar with, and of course, World War II spanned many places on our planet. But you don't think about necessarily some of what would now be, some of the Slovak or some of the Eastern European countries like Belarus, for example, by the Nazis. We always think of the big players, like the French and the Russians and the Germans and the Italians, etc. But so this movie is based strictly in Belarus, and it features Daniel Craig and Liev Schreiber as a pair of brothers. Actually, there's 4 brothers altogether. But these are the 2 main ones who are head of a group known as the Bilski Partisans. And essentially what they did was, their families were all killed. There was a lot of Jew hunters among the Nazis. They were trying to find Jews and then kill them. The Bilskis lost their parents. These brothers get together and in an effort to try to survive, start recruiting and finding other Jews, and they go hide in the forest. And basically they create their own little society while at the same time trying to avoid the Nazis and scrummage for food. So it's a story of survival, and it ends up being a really interesting story because they end up fighting back. The brothers actually separate. Liev Schreiber's character goes to kind of fight with this Russian unit. And they're basically out there hunting Nazis down while Daniel Craig's character is in charge of this community. And it's basically their attempt to survive. And of course, they go through the various morality plays that you do anytime you're trying to get a new community together and survive at the same time. So I think that pretty much sums up what the movie's about. Ken, anything else you wanted to add in terms of the plot?
No, I think that pretty well covers the plot aspect of it. I would say, as is the case with every historical drama, there are some things that are heightened in this that didn't necessarily occur in real life, including some of the battles, which the woman who wrote the book about this, that this is based on, that was her major criticism of the movie, is they added too many battles in. And in part because you're making a movie, right? That needs to be in there. But in reality, they did everything they could not to fight, right? But beyond that, I think it's a pretty accurate reflection of what it had, and that was a very fine plot summary.
So, and what ends up happening, not to skip all the way to the end, but they actually they survive and end up living in the forest. We basically see a year, the first year of their existence. They basically survive through the end of the war, and then the Bielski brothers eventually move to the United States and are successful citizens. But this was a story that they didn't really share very much. So it took a while for this story to actually be told and come to light on film. What did you think, Kent, about you've got two characters? The two main actors are Daniel Craig, who, this movie was made in 2008, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's about the time he started playing Bond, or maybe a little after, right?
It was after. He'd already done one Bond movie.
Okay.
They shot this one in between the Bond movie he did in the second one, and so they changed the production schedule of this one so he could do Bond, because they didn't want to lose him.
So you have Daniel Craig and you have Liev Schreiber playing the main two brothers in this story, and it's I've always enjoyed Daniel Craig. I think his interpretation of Bond is the best that we've ever seen. I love his versatility, and in this, I mean, he's got to dig in pretty deep because they all speak. I'm assuming it's Russian, or it's one of the languages.
No, it's Russian, which made the Belarus people unhappy because there is in fact Belarus language, but they're actually speaking Russian in there. I decades ago took Russian at the university, so I recognize a few of the words. It's not like I really know what they're saying, but it's like, that's a Russian word.
Well, I see. That's where I was impressed, because not the whole movie, but there are certain parts, especially when they encounter other Russians, where there's a lot of Russian being spoken, and Daniel Craig seems very fluent in this.
Daniel Craig's an extremely good actor. I agree with you. I think Sean Connery's Bond is kind of the iconic one, but I think that Craig is the best actor that's played Bond, and I think that first Bond movie he did, the remake of, is by far the best of the whole lot, as far as his acting and that whole capturing the essence. What was it, Casino Royale or whatever?
Casino Royale was the first one.
Yeah. And I think he was, and yeah, this is just another in a series of excellent performances from him. Find something that he hasn't been good in, right? Even if the movie isn't any good, he's always good. And Liev Schreiber, I think, was excellent in this as well. And I think that's what really made the movie for me, because is that acting. Because frankly, huddling in the forest for 2 hours, wouldn't really have worked if you didn't have those kind of performances, right?
Yeah, and it was the struggle because
it was their conflict. Yeah,
right. Because Schreiber was more of the. I mean, he really fit the role of Defiance. He wanted to go and fight. He wanted to go hunt down Nazis and kill them and be aggressive. And Daniel Craig's character was more of the passive. Not that he was a pacifist. They obviously fought, but he was more of a, hey, let's hunker down and do what we got to do to survive and not go looking for trouble.
Yeah, don't become them in the process of
fighting.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a thought. I haven't seen any of the new Bond movies. Which
None of them?
surprises me.
Oh, wow.
Also, don't get me wrong. So I haven't seen a ton of Daniel Craig movies, and I've never really had an opinion on him. I thought he was great in one of the few movies I have seen was Logan Lucky. He was hilarious in that, which I know is kind of an outlier of what he normally does, but he was phenomenal.
Did you see Knives Out?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, so what was going through my head last night was I thought Schreiber kind of stole the show, and Craig didn't do anything. The thought that I had was, I don't know if I like Daniel Craig.
Oh,
and it's not that I definitely don't dislike him, but I don't know that there was anything about his performance, which again was good. There was nothing I disliked about it, but nothing kind of has grabbed me of anything that I have seen of him. He's been good in everything, like you said, Kent, but I'm not at the point where I'm like, Daniel Craig's in a movie, I'm going to see it.
Well, I would say watch Casino Royale to start with.
Yeah.
And secondly, he didn't have the showy part, right?
Correct. Yep.
Right. You know,
he was supposed to be the down-to-earth guy. Yeah.
Put those two roles, and he could have been just as fiery and
for sure
whatever as Schreiber was. So part of it is the part itself, right?
Yep.
The other part of it is, frankly, he got stuck with some of that really clunky Edward Zwick dialogue. Zwick directed it and he co-wrote it, and he has a tendency to sometimes try to make the characters say too much, and you end up with the dialogue gets a little clunky, and Craig got more than his fair share of that, I think. Zwick being the director most famously of Glory, I think is the movie that he made most people have seen.
Well, that makes sense. I liked it. I mean, I thought, and I don't know what your thoughts, Ken. I know how normally you're a big fan of the compact movies. I thought it didn't have to be as long as it was.
I agree 100%.
There were some parts kind of in the middle that felt like it should have almost been over, like it had been on longer than it was. I wasn't like rooting for the end of it, but I had paused it at one point thinking, okay, there's maybe 30 or 40 minutes left, and I was barely halfway through, and I was like, damn, what the hell else is going to happen? It just kind of felt like it drug a little bit in the middle, which is why I can see why they felt the need to add some of the more action scenes, because even with the ones that they did, there was still a lot of time in between. And you're right, the performances helped, but I thought it was a little long. But other than that, the story was different from a lot of the other World War II stories. It's kind of a different kind of look at how it works, like you said, from a different country, a kind of a story that not a lot of people know, and an area of the country that not a lot of people think about when they think about World War II. So that was interesting. I did think, other than, like you said, adding the kind of Hollywood action scenes, that there were also other kind of scenes or moments that I felt were Hollywooded up. I kind of have a really good eye for seeing that stuff, because when it gets a little campy, it bugs me a little, because as you've seen from The Club, I'm much more into the weird independence type stuff. So when I see the kind of very obvious Hollywood-esque things, one of the things I can think of is when they first got that big group to join them. And he kind of got on his horse and he was like walking back and forth on his horse and giving this like very Bravehearty type speech. I was like, okay, did you have to get on the horse, Daniel? Like, come on. And then there was a little montage after that of everyone like cleaning together and learning together and all this stuff that I get why they do it. And you want to show progress as to positive things happening before all this negative stuff happens, before back to the positive. But other than that, it was enjoyable. And I mean, it's definitely worth watching.
The other aspect of it that I like, that I would point out there that sort of Hollywoodized it, was the romance.
Yes.
Between Mia, however you say her last name, and Jamie Bell, one of the other brothers. That smacked of Hollywood pretty hard.
Yeah. He's fighting another guy in the camp who went and talked to her, and you got that very quintessential scene of him looking behind the tree, like all sad, like, oh, she likes another boy. Yeah, it was all kind of that same 20-25 minutes.
That was right in that same exactly. That's and that happens. And interestingly enough, it happened even though this movie was actually distributed by a Paramount Vantage, which no longer exists, but that was Paramount for a time, like from 2000, maybe late 90s to maybe 2010, 2012. All the major studios had these quote indie arms. So you had Focus Features, which is still around, and Miramax. Disney bought Miramax to be its arm, and there was Warner Independent and Paramount Vantage and Sony Pictures Classics, which still exists. And those were their quote indie arms. But this one, made by a Hollywood type director, ended up having that elements in it.
Yeah.
Ken, it sounded like you enjoyed it, but when I looked at the Rotten Tomatoes and the Metacritic ratings, it was just barely over 50%. Rotten Tomatoes was 57, Metacritic 58 out of 100. And in reading some of the other reviews, the New York Times reviewer called it stiff. So why do you suppose this didn't get as good a reviews? Because usually films like this, historical pieces like this with good acting in it, are generally seen very favorably, but this one was just kind of a 50-50.
Well, I searched around and found, I was like, why can't I find a review of this? Well, I packaged it with, there must have been a half dozen other movies come out that weekend or something, and it was buried in my old Google Docs file, and I gave it a B-. So, I didn't think it was a great movie. Maybe for some of the reasons that Stibbs and I have just been talking about, sort of that Hollywood. And this is not a thought that's original to me. I saw this in somebody else's report, a review. It's hard to make a gripping epic underneath the trees for 2.5 hours.
Yeah. I mean, because it can feel a little claustrophobic at times, because you're basically, normally war movies, you move from the sand to the land, to the sea, to all this other stuff.
Way more going on, and these people were clustered in here like this. But I thought it was a decent movie. It just, and you gotta, truthfully, I don't remember what else came out around it, but very often what happens when you're writing reviews, you're reviewing movies, is if you see something great that same week, and then you see this might get pulled down a little bit.
Everything's graded on that curve. Yeah.
But just because that's how it works, I mean, back when they were putting out, there'd be 5-6 movies open on a weekend. I remember having screenings where we see 3 movies in one day. That third movie better be good.
Yeah, you're grading everything off the curve of whatever your favorite movie was that weekend. And who knows, you seeing it this week may have been like, oh, maybe you wouldn't have given it quite the same grade.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's like, so that's why when we've watched these new films that are on Netflix or whatever, it's a different experience for me than going back and watching the ones like this that I've already seen once and then haven't seen for 12 years. But once you start seeing it, it's like, oh, well, that's what I thought about that. And that's what I remember that, but I don't remember what came out around it,
So it is Defiance from 2008. It is streaming right now on Netflix if you'd like to catch it sometime. We all seem to like it enough. Certainly it might be worth
a watch.
Investment of your time. Yeah. Yep. Now for movies that won't be worth your time, here's Tim.
Kent, thank you for the segue into new movies on Netflix.
Ooh.
Speaking of, there is a movie that came out 2 or 3 weeks ago on Netflix. I am picking The Devil All the Time. Have you watched that yet, Kent?
I have not. I have seen it when I've gotten on there and went,
Oh.
maybe I'll watch this. But then I always get pulled down some other, you know.
John, I've heard it's different, but it seems like it could be up your alley. It's like it looks actiony. It's the IMDb bio is sinister characters converge around a young man devoted to protecting those he loves in a post-war backwoods town teeming with corruption and brutality. It's got Tom Holland, who
that's
is
the new Spider-Man.
The new Spider-Man. Bill Skarsgård, who is Pennywise.
Oh,
And really good, by the way.
Robert Pattinson. Yeah, there's some really good actors in it. It's
Robert Pattinson. He's one of the Twilight boys.
Yep. But he's shown in the last handful of years that he's a really
good actor.
He's a really good actor.
Yeah, I'm reading the synopsis right now, and it says, examining themes of evil, religion, and the abuse of power in rural, small-town America. Sounds like a real good family film. Well, so The Devil All the Time, which is now streaming on Netflix, is
devil
Tibbs'
guy.
choice.
Call me Bill Moose.
Yeah, I can.
Awesome.
Okay, let's see. I thought there was something else I found this week that
Well, the Lakers are rolling.
well, that's because Kent's Miami Heat are down to like 3 players left.
I was
so-
going to say, if Bam can't play tonight,
And
that'll get ugly quick.
and he's out.
Is he out?
He is
Yeah, it was just
officially out. Yeah.
Ooh.
Last I saw, the 10 was, or the point spread was 10 points for this one.
Oh, that.
Yeah, right. It's 10.5 now. My God.
Only 10, huh? Okay.
Yeah, that thing's moving.
That's not going to be pretty. I don't know what they can do. Not only will Anthony Davis go crazy, but you put Dwight Howard in there. They literally got nobody that can guard him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, by this time next week, there will be no more NBA. So Kent will have to find other things to do. But the good news is we have a new movie, The Devil All the Time, to keep you occupied.
Well, and Evil Kent.
And then it's only a couple more Fridays before it all starts again.
Evil Kent is back.
Yes.
That's right. Evil Kent returns to make predictions for 3 weeks from tomorrow.
And the Thursday night football dumpster fire lineup also continued.
I'm not going to argue.
3 terrible games.
Is it next week Bucks Bears?
Yeah, that one's going to be pretty good, actually.
You think so? It's interesting. It's
It's
definitely
interesting. Yeah, I don't know that it'll be good, but it'll be
Because it's Bucks Bears, isn't Chiefs Bills after that?
Chiefs, Bills. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
And then after that, it can go to pot.
we might have hit rock bottom last night.
Last night was a horrific football game.
They have the only thing they could have put the Giants in there and had all 3 of them play, and then it would have been
The Royal Rumble of a football
Kent,
game.
that might be your best idea yet.
3 teams on the same field. One survives.
Yeah, probably not a bad idea because you could do that, and then the winner gets the first round draft pick, the first overall pick.
Yeah, they should do that at the end of the year for like a playoff. Like the bottom 5 teams play off for the top pick. That'd be sweet.
that'd be some fine football. We quit for the year, and you're going to make us play another game.
Bad news. All right, well, Kent, we'll look forward to The Devil All the Time next week in the movie club.
Sounds great.
Thank
See
you,
you,
Kent.
Kent. There he is, Kent Wolgamont of the Lincoln Journal-Star. Okay, this one's got at least a little promise.
Yeah, it's like it's not
I'm
ridiculous.
intrigued.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Watch the trailer at break. The trailer looks pretty cool.
I won't go into this with the usual sense of fear and foreboding that I normally do with a Stibbs movie choice. So we'll, hopefully it'll live up to the name. All right. Well, there's the movie club. We still have a One Beer Friday coming up.
Brought to you by Senate Sandbar. Thank you, Senate Sandbar.
Yes. Let's see. What have I been missing out on? Let's see. One Beer Friday.
A lot of stuff, man. We got predictions. We got what you say.
Cubs
That's
game.
true.
Cubs game.
Cubs are still in it.
Cubs are still playing a baseball game. That is factually true.
Yeah, but the game's over. Also, a little bit about what Bill Moose had to say. Brr. We'll hear from Beer Moose. Also, we have an update on the Tennessee Titans situation too.
Oh,
So all that to come here on Unsportsmanlike Conduct in 1620 The Zone.